What's going on, everybody? This is a little voice recording before the actual podcast episode. Now, this podcast episode I recorded, I would want to say around my podcast episode 18 or 19, The Importance of Impact. It was around that time. And this episode is near and dear to me. I didn't upload it at the time because, weirdly enough, I didn't like the episode. But now I'm going to upload it, and you guys is going to see firsthand how special this is to me. Now, this episode is going to be talking about TED Talks and how important TED Talks were for me, and also that being a driving force for what I'm doing right now, currently and presently at this very moment. Now, I just wanted to give you guys a brief little rundown of what you're going to be watching. And technically, I want to say this is podcast episode like 1920, but this is going to be episode 29. And I really thank you guys for tuning in and showing your support all the way up to this point. You guys are very special to me. And like, subscribe, download the podcast. Do what you can to show your support if you enjoy this content. I love y'all. Deuces. Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host, Darryl Wingfield. Today we're going to be talking about TED Talks. I know that seems kind of random, but TED Talk is at the top of my goal list. It's literally the thing that's at the very, very top of my goal list. Is the number one thing that I would like to do. And as you guys see at this point, you can imagine why. But in the beginning of all of this, I would have never ever guessed that more than anything in the world that a TED Talk would be something that I wanted to do. Now, I've been watching TED Talks for probably the last, I would want to say 6 years. Now, to me, I've always been the type of person that's always looking to find information, but not just any information. As everybody does, you're going to find information that's relative to you and that relates to you most. You're not just going to be looking up anything. And that's TED Talks helped me a lot in a lot of tough situations where I needed direction and I needed a different way to start to look at things that's around me. Just had a brain fart there. But through playing basketball, like I always say, that first inspiration planted the seed for me to just pretty much feel inspired by pretty much everything that goes on around me, just as if I was playing basketball. And the more I started looking at the wonders in this world, the more that I started, weirdly enough, seeing basketball and pretty much everything in regards to creativity. And I say this all the time, that I feel as though we were made to create. That's what I believe human beings were made to do. We're made to create. And I think that a lot of the things that we were meant to create is totally unique to us, to what we like, to what we don't like, to what our talents are, to what our gifts are, our skills, what makes us us. And through all of that whole combination, I really do believe that we're meant to create something. And I always used to think about, if I did a podcast, or not a podcast, but if I did a TED Talk, what would my TED Talk be about? And the one thing that I would talk about if I was to do a TED Talk, as a matter of fact, when I do a TED Talk, it's going to be talking about inspiring people to take action to create. Because I feel as though we're surrounded by that every single day. That everybody always, you see stuff every single day that wows you. You may not be aware of it, but you do. Like, if you like, I don't know, a certain type of food at a certain restaurant, somebody took you there, somebody influenced you to, end up liking that food. The very last podcast that I had out, or have out right now, is talking about like the power of impact. And impact and inspiration to me goes hand in hand. They're pretty much right there, linked up with each other. And a lot of times what keeps us moving forward is that impact that others have on us, and also that impact that we have on others, because that inspires us to act on something, and what better way than act on something that's regarding you and making you a better person, because naturally that's going to make the world around you, better. Now, once I decided that I wanted to do a TED Talk, I set this goal down for like 2029. And that's the date that I wrote down, because I felt as though in order for me to do a talk or just talk about any of the things that I've been talking about this whole entire time, that I need something to stand on and I need proof. And that held me back for really being assertive with, I guess, doing a TED Talk or just going to trying to pursue it in the first place. It's just that I felt as though that if I didn't apply the things for myself, then why would anybody listen to me? But I realized quickly that that's the wrong way to think about it. And also to look back at the things that I already accomplished and, not sell myself short to back down from something that I feel as though I should be doing, or that I truly, really want to do. And then as of recently, just to give you guys an update with my life, I just decided, actually, as of today, that, you know what, if I want to do a TED Talk, then just do a TED Talk. A lot of times what hold you back from doing something that you really want to do is just taking action towards it in some way, shape, or form. Because any action towards your dreams and aspirations, you're that much closer than you was if you wouldn't have done it in the first place. So just imagine if you every day was to take those steps, you're getting naturally closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. Now, broken record alert. This is something that I always talk about, that changes a slow process, but it's also immediate at the same time, due to the fact that you're doing something different than what you previously done before, which automatically means that you just change your circumstances. You instantly just change your circumstances. Now, it may take a long time for you to start to understand that, or it may take a while, but it's happening. Whether you're aware of it or not, you just have to keep going. And the more, for example, I keep doing these podcasts and keep doing these talks, ideas just started coming about. And then doing a TED Talk, that's just one of them that recently came to the top of my head, where 2 years ago, I read this book called The One Thing. Now, what The One Thing was about was pretty much taking any goal that you're trying to achieve and them breaking it down in such a way that you see it clearly and you see what you have to do. And it's in a weird way where they break it down in such a way that you have behaviors from, right now, for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, 5 years, someday. Now, people that's really close to me, they know already what I'm about to say, due to the fact of how often I do talk about this. I haven't talked about this in a while, but that book highly uh, changed my behavior and gave me like a laser like focus towards like every single day. And that book ultimately led me down the road of thinking, what is the grandest thing that I want to do? And out of all the things that I had on my list of the things that I wanted to accomplish, like crazy, like I had a paper. I have the paper literally, right here in front of me, and you got things like an NBA player in the year, NBA All Star in the year, TED Talk speaker, like all of these things that I wrote down. And at first it's just like, yeah, this stuff seems extremely outlandish. But when you start to break things down to a simple science, you start to realize that things aren't as difficult as they may seem. It's just about the constant work that you have to put in, for it. Like, for example, I have on here NBA player. I put that down for February 18th of 2024. 3 years from now. But backtracking all of that, it's just like it says under that for my 1 year goal, play overseas. 1 month goal is to keep up with my weekly, and my weekly is to keep up with my daily, and my daily is to pretty much like all of this is pretty much keeping everything in line, so you're never going off course, and you're always staying balanced, and you're in a way measuring yourself every day to to all your goals. But my someday goal at the very top of that list, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, it is a TED Talk speaker, and it says for June 7th of 2029. Now, January 7th of 2029 is a very, very, very long time from right now. And I figured, why not just go for it right now? I think that what holds us back a lot of time is thinking that we have more time than we actually have. And at the end of the day, time is only an illusion. It really is. It's just a way of measuring things. And measuring things is, to me personally, it's like you're trying to measure something that's immeasurable. You can't measure it. You're trying to understand something that's outside of your understanding. And I think that it helps. For example, time helps. Measurements help. Days of the week help with gaining structure. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's all an illusion, because it's making us feel as though these things are real when it's really not. It's really pretty much our imagination just operating this whole thing. Now, the reason why I'm even saying this to begin with is for you guys to understand that we waste so much time, living a scary life, that we miss out on a lot. And if you guys just think about it, just really, really think about it, it's extremely hard with the life that we have to get this full experience, because like we don't have enough time. So since we don't have enough time to get all these things done that we can possibly experience in this world, I think that that's what makes that individual part, and why we were meant to create in some specific thing in our unique way, just to experience the world to our fullest capability. But if you think about it, this earth, this universe is a great place to create from, due to the fact of all the many different resources that you can possibly use. How often do you exercise that to the best of your ability on a given day? Oftentimes never. And I really want to help people, bring the best out of themselves every day, because more than anything, once you start doing that, you're going to feel a change in yourself, and you're going to feel a contagious vibe of, dag, whatever this feeling is, I want to give it to the next person, because that's honestly, even right now, that's what I'm doing to the best of my ability with presenting these podcast episodes to you guys. So yet again, that's why I say that I hope these words is resonating with you guys, because they mean a lot to me. And at this point, I'm living by them, and I'm seeing personally how my life is changing every day. From weirdly enough starting to listen to myself and listen to my own advice. Because that was something that I never really was good at. Today I had a great conversation with Rick. I know you guys know Rick if you've seen the previous podcast episodes. I think he was on episode 15. But I was talking to Rick today, and just talking to him about like what I just even discussed with the different experiences that we can go through and live in this world. But oftentimes, he made the point of just pretty much saying that we was discussing that a lot of times we live our lives through someone else's lens and not the lens that we created for ourselves. You can very well be a limited version of yourself if you just conform to society's beliefs, especially if you have the privilege of growing up and living here in the United States. Then a lot of resources that we have now, you can pretty much be and do whatever you want. But a lot of people don't understand that, and I wanna help people just tap into that creativity that they have, because you never know what the next man is ready to create and bring to the world. And I really believe that that's what we were made to do, is we were made to create. Now, what will you create? What service or product will you make that later on in the future you don't even know how beneficial that it's going to be, or how? There's two types of people in this world. You're either going to be the person that's making somebody's life better, or you're going to be the person that's making somebody's life worse. There's no in between, but depending on which side you stand on, that's going to be a clear reflection of who you are, especially in that moment. And you definitely, like, if you're listening to this, just be that person that adds value to somebody's life instead of trying to take that value away from them, and especially to put value towards yourself, because you're really not adding value to nobody. You're just taking it away from both of y'all. What are you guys' fears? Like, what are you guys are genuinely afraid of? Like, what scares you? What stops you from doing the things that you truly dream about and the person that you aspire to be? You got to really ask yourself that. I ask myself that honestly all the time. Like, literally all the time. What am I scared of? What are my fears? And I try to get past that. Like, for example, a lot of people, like, number one fear is public speaking. I do not know why, for example, that public speaking is at the top of the list for me. Now, this is not something that I say, like, I guess I'm comfortable, I would be comfortable with doing, but I wouldn't mind that experience, and getting out of myself. Like, you have to really be willing to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Find your comfort zone in an uncomfortable situation. That's to me, weirdly enough, that's what this life is about. Due to the fact, like I said earlier, so many different experiences that you could possibly have. So a lot of things that, for example, when you're doing something for the first time and experiencing something for the first time, it could come across as uncomfortable or discomfort because this is new to you. You know, if you never jumped in a pool before, I I doubt that you'll know how to swim. You know, and that's going into the unknown. But through that, you could develop a trait of learning how to swim and knowing how to swim. And that way you won't lose that for the rest of your life. But this is something that we could take at any given aspect with anything in our lives, where if we want to do something, go to the unknown. Because this is something that I say on this podcast a lot. But the unknown is where you create from. That's where the creativity like happens at, you know. And then to me, it's just like it filters through and then comes through in this reality from whatever you created, from that creativity zone of being in the unknown. And I try to always put myself in the unknown, because that way I know that I'm staying in the moment. I'm being unique to myself. And these moments, you can't repeat them no matter how hard you try. No matter how hard you try, you can't do this like twice. It most likely, it can be a variation of the same thing, but it's not exactly the same thing. You know, that's why we're all unique. And that's why we all have our own individual purpose that we need to be pursuing. You know, it's highly important. It adds to our character, and it adds to our value, and it adds to the value of people around us. Other than that, it's pretty much everything that I had to say for this week's podcast episode. I was just truly excited about, you know, sending in my nomination to do a TED Talk, because it was completely random. Today I don't know what made me wake up and do that. It was one of those things where it was a moment where it crossed my head, and it was just like, Daryl, just do it. And I just did it. And that's how life should work. So you guys should do the same thing. If you watch this all the way up at this point, choose something, these very next moments that come across you that you wouldn't typically do, but it regards to you growing in some way, shape, or form. Don't think twice, just do it. And if my voice or my face pop up in your head, that's even more incentive to do it. I love you guys. Serve your purpose. I'm out. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for listening. Tune in next week for the next episode.